It doesn't have to be a topic that's on our agenda, but if it's a topic that it's on not, the topics that are not on our agenda, we cannot respond to. So the public comments are intended to give us information about how the community is responding to certain things or worried about whatever. And sometimes, occasionally, we do get a few kudos in those public comments. So the board will discuss any item on the proposed agenda when it comes up in the sequence that it is posted on the agenda. We cannot discuss it in the public comment section. And we can only discuss those items that are on the publicly posted agenda. But we may, at a later time, place an item on an agenda if that seems appropriate. We also would remind you that we are unable to take any comments that are about our personnel. We cannot discuss those in public session. So those comments we would ask you to refrain from. And we know that you will approach the board with a feeling of cooperation and respect and perform in a civil manner. And we work our way into doing that as well, because it's very important to us that our meetings be conducted in civil and collaborative discourse. So those are the ground rules. We have first Lena Germain. Is it Germain? German.
German, okay.
There's two N's there, so I...
The first two together.
Okay. Oh, and Phyllis Baca. Got it.
Should we use this? Is this on?
Yes.
Madam Chair and members of the board, thank you for allowing me. This is an overdue thank you, by the way. I'm here representing New Mexico Network of Women in Science and Engineering and American Association of University Women Santa Fe branch. I'm a board member of both. And we organize Expanding Your Horizon Conference. It's a STEM conference for girls in Santa Fe, and I believe Mr. Sullivan, Board Member Sullivan, attended the one in September and reported to you. And I'm sorry I couldn't make the December meeting, so here I am. And this is a thank you to the board and the school for everything you do. And to show you the girls.
Right.
It's also on the card. And you've got a copy, I think, a copy of the report, but here it is.
Thank you.
Maybe I should keep it. Because I gotta highlight some things.
Okay, well, do you want to have it? You can give it to me afterwards.
186 girls registered for this conference. We had 10 workshops, STEM workshops. We had some from, and we had one adult workshop that for the teachers and the parents that Phyllis Baca gave, and one of them was on sustainability with Dr. Bustamante and Ondine. And then we had workshops by women from all over, from the Audubon Center where they dissected owl pellets, and from Los Alamos, and all over northern New Mexico. We also had a STEM fair in the afternoon, so every girl attended 2 workshops out of the 10, and then we had a STEM fair in the afternoon, and the STEM fair had 16 different exhibits, and anything from the Mesa engineering competition to the aerospace engineers. I'm trying to find that page. This was back in September, by the way, so I'm already preparing for the next one. So, what can I tell you? What more can I tell you about it?
We really have to thank Fran and Bazad. We have done this for many years, and Santa Fe Community College has supported us with the rooms, the place. We're able to put all that other money that we aren't spending on the venue into these students, these girls, but especially the people here. Even one year we had Henry and his whole crew helping us. They're just fantastic that everybody does here. And this word is spread throughout northern New Mexico. It appeared in 3 newspapers. Again, the people people we touch, our sponsors, Los Alamos Labs, Audubon Society, the women from our own place. We've had several different women from within STEM professions here at help us out with everything, but it's just a special thank you. I know Kathy has one of her daughters attend sometimes, and it's just, we have to come and thank you, and as you can see from the looks on those children's faces and what they pick up and learn, they want more. We don't know how to do more yet, but we'd like to, but we just, really want to give you a heartfelt thank for everything you do for the girls. We had girls from Cimarron. They drove 2 hours with 2 adults and came and went 2 hours back. Just the impact that Santa Fe Community College has on this community and northern New Mexico is just astounding in the realms of STEM. But just thank you, and did you want to?
Yeah, I remember too, the student ambassadors also came and volunteered and helped, and the freedom ambassadors, I guess the master's program students too. So that was great. I mean, this event cannot happen without the volunteers. We have 67 volunteers that I could count, and 150 girls is finally attended. And we did have to turn girls away. We had to, I was like, we can't put more than, unless we put more workshops and have more rooms, but I think we can, I don't think I can handle more than 150. From 5th grade to 8th grade girls.
That's a lot.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
There's a... Thank you.
All right.
Richard Berlinetto. Oh, yes. Right, Richard.
Hello, I'm here actually speaking in support of retaining the concealed carry training. I'm a student, I'm a retired physician, and I'm a citizen, and I'm going to speak in all 3 roles. First, as a student, that's why I'm not what I consider properly dressed. I have class. It started at 5:30. It's a wood-turning class, okay? And you're dressed down for that. Okay, so anyway, I'm actually here to support retaining the concealed carry training course. I'll preface my remarks by saying that I don't own a gun. I have never owned a gun. To my recollection, I don't think I've ever fired a gun, okay? I actually feel that Americans would be safer without guns, but that's not the world we live in, okay? We live in a world where Americans are allowed to carry guns, and I feel that under those circumstances, the more education the person with the gun has, the better off society is. I think that carrying weapons and training people to carry weapons is a duty of society, okay? I speak partly I'm a pediatrician. I was a pediatrician for 40 years before I retired. And I can tell you that the American Academy of Pediatrics feels strongly about gun safety and educating people in gun safety. So again, it's the real world. If we can carry these guns, we really need to train people. I think that the college is providing an important service, a real service to the community by doing this. I didn't know this existed. But as a citizen, I was thinking about this, and really, if somebody is allowed to carry a weapon in a theater or at school or something like this, and you're sitting next to me, I sure hope that person knows how to use it, okay? So I guess as a citizen, I also support this. So while I can understand how people feel that guns are dangerous and people shouldn't have them, again, if we are allowed to have them, I think it's important that we do provide this important educational activity. It's a tragedy when you read these stories about children being killed with their parents' weapons because their parents didn't know how to safely store it, how to keep the ammunition separate from the gun and keep the gun someplace where the kid doesn't think it's a toy. So anyway, those are my feelings. And thank you for the opportunity for expressing them. I have to go to class.
Go to class.
Nancy Bennett.
Hi, I'm Nancy Bennett. I'm one of 2 instructors for that concealed carry class through continuing education. My business partner, John Rayburn, is the other instructor. I'm also a former employee of Santa Fe Community College for 17 years. Let me give you a quick overview of some current state gun laws, just so you know the atmosphere we're in. Any New Mexican 21 years or older can go to a gun dealer, pass a background check, and buy a handgun. No registration, no permit, no training is required at all. New Mexico is one of 45 states that allows open carry. That means a legal gun owner may carry a loaded handgun in a visible holster nearly everywhere in the state without any sort of permit. A Gallup poll found that 43% of all U.S. households currently own some sort of firearm. So theoretically, more than 40% of the adults you might encounter here on the street or in the grocery store could be openly armed if they wish, and it would be entirely legal. Obviously, most people who choose to carry a gun do not carry it openly. That's in part because they're sensitive to others and don't want to cause undue alarm. Following decisions by the U.S. Supreme Court, all 50 states must issue concealed carry licenses. So your residents here have that right, and they need to know how to do it. The concealed carry law offers New Mexicans who want to be able to protect themselves and their families the option of being discreet in doing so. There's a common remark that when seconds count, the police are just minutes away. Hard-working but short-handed law enforcement officers readily admit they can't be everywhere they're needed in a timely fashion. A national survey of more than 15,500 law enforcement officers in 2013 asked if they were in favor of concealed carry by authorized civilians. Want to guess the results? 91.3% supported concealed carry by citizens. Back when they were more available, sheriff's officers used to come to our classes and just visit our students. New Mexico adopted the concealed carry law in 2003. It requires applicants to complete 15 hours of training on safe gun handling, child safety, proper gun storage, federal, state, and local laws, criminal and civil, justifiable use of deadly force, techniques for avoiding criminal attack, and how to resolve disputes nonviolently or control a violent confrontation. To my knowledge, this is the second highest requirement of training in the country. Those who earn a license, think about this, they willingly learn all those federal and state laws. They voluntarily undergo 15 hours of training and fingerprinting, a federal background check. They're spending between $150 and $250 for that training, plus $100 to the state for the fee. They've never committed a felony or been convicted of any domestic violence. By this time last year, a whole year ago, New Mexico had 40,800 concealed carry licensees with active good permits. I hope you're surprised, because those people are behaving responsibly and you don't hear about them. They don't make the news. Trainers are also vetted and approved by the New Mexico State Police, including fingerprinting, a federal background check, and a review of our curriculum. John and I are numbers 54 and 56 on a list of 600 approved instructors because we started back in '04. We have trained literally hundreds of licensees. We do bring handguns on campus. That is clearly allowed under state law for training purposes. We do not bring or allow live ammunition, and for safety, the maximum amount of students we will accept is 8 for the two of us, so it's 1 to 4. When we're out firing live rounds, one of us is with one shooter at a time. Everybody else has empty hands. Our students represent many walks of life. We have college students, real estate agents, artists, actors, retired law enforcement, business owners, firefighters, judges, lawyers, National Lab, many medical professionals in all walks of that profession, and veterans and retirees. I believe you received a representative sampling of some of their written class evaluations. So I guess you get it that I'd like to continue this class.
Thank you, Nancy. John Rayburn?
I'll pass on it at this time, thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the list of people who want to address the board. So we'll move on. We have moved that discussion up right after the communications report, so that'll be coming forward quickly. Let's see, we have the Employee of the Month.
Yes, so we're going to do for 2 different months. For November, on the Pass It Forward Award, we had Colleen Lynch nominated John Gorman.
Fortunately, Colleen is teaching a class, so she could not be here. And John also could not be here. She sent a statement. She said, "I chose John Gorman for the Pass It Forward Award because though he is the sole instructional designer on campus and has requests coming at him from all sides, he has always been thoughtful, helpful, and quick to respond to my many queries about Canvas. He has been a great support to our department as we work to expand the online resources available to our students. Thank you, John." And John replied, "I am grateful to be nominated for the Pass It Forward last November. It is a great tribute to be recognized from a fellow peer here at SFCC for my work ethic and contribution that I make here at SFCC."
Great. Well, let's congratulate John. The Wild Ram for November, Valerie Grimley nominated Marvin Gabaldon.
And they're not here either.
Okay.
Valerie said, "Marvin is one of the Native American Club advisors alongside me and helped me coordinate with the club all the events for our first annual Native American Week, which was held in April of 2015. He is a great team builder, mentor, and supporter of our Native American students on campus." And Marvin could not be here because he is participating in tribal obligations, but he said, "I'd like to say I'm honored to receive the WOW-gram for November. It was certainly unexpected and was a pleasant surprise. Thanks to Miss Valerie Grimley for the nomination."
All right, let's congratulate Marvin. Then in December, so the Pass It Forward Award winner John Gorman from November nominated Maria Estrada from Plant Operations and Maintenance.
And she just had a new baby.
Maybe she had a baby. Yay.
And she's not here. And then we have Mark,
And then for the Wild Ram, Angela Ortiz nominated Mark Valadez.
and he sent word saying, "Receiving the WOW-gram was a big surprise and very nice gift. All of us in Palm go about our day working and keeping the campus running, and to be recognized in this way is very much appreciated. Thank you so much."
Great. Let's congratulate both of them.
President's report.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, just want to highlight a few activities. At our convocation earlier this month, we actually kicked off a new initiative that we call 20 by 20. We've established a wildly important goal, otherwise known as a WIG, of trying to reach a 20% graduation rate by the year 2020. For those who may be watching and don't really think, well, how could 20% be a high rate? It's based upon the number of first-time, full-time degree-seeking students who start and finish a 2-year degree within 3 years. Most of our students, even if they start full-time, go part-time. This past year, we had a 16% graduation rate, which was one of the highest we have ever had, and 20% would actually be amongst the better community colleges in the nation. So we'll focus our activities on that one goal. There's lots of initiatives related to student success to try to get more students to complete, and you'll be hearing about more activities as we go through the year. Related to that, we have expanded our Achieving the Dream team, and we'll actually be sending 10 people to the Dream Conference that's taking place at the end of February. Our Veterans Resource Center continues to win awards. The chapter here won a business plan competition against 100 colleges and universities. In fact, we're the first community college to actually win in this competition. So congratulations once again to Greg Scarville and the other students in the Veterans Resource Center. Next Tuesday, Groundhog Day, is also Santa Fe Community College Day at the legislature. So we will be having tables and booths set up throughout the rotunda. Board members and myself will be down there. There'll be some introductions, and we'll be celebrating Santa Fe Community College Day at the legislature. A couple things I do also want to point out. The Clay Club has their regular holiday sale, and they donate, they do a silent auction as part of that, and they donate 100% of those proceeds to the campus covered. So once again, we want to thank the Clay Club for all they do, and especially for supporting our campus covered. And recently, Algae Industry Magazine had an international readers poll, and we actually had 3 of our people at programs got recognized. Luke Spangenberg earned 3rd place in the category of cultivation equipment for his company. He also won as 4th place as an algae ambassador, and this was against well-known scientists from labs and universities, so this is really good. And then one of our partners, Apogee Spirulina, who I know the board has heard about, who is in the process of doing some greenhouses on campus to raise spirulina, won an award as 3rd place in the category of algae micro-farming. So we continue to get the word out there about the college through all that we do.
Thank you. Let's see, we have an enrollment report.
And Vice President Peters is going to do that.
What did you say?
She didn't get her time to sign up for public comment.
Oh, okay. Can you tell us what the topic is?
Preliminary Compassionate Use Act and helping to ensure equal access and accessibility for individuals such as myself that we have non-combat PTSD. And so there's a lot of measures that have been made in support of that. As far as the federal, there was a case that went to federal court. It was remanded back to state court in regard to the Preliminary Compassionate Use Act. There was also a case I settled with the state regarding cannabis. And so I'm just here to warn that from a peaceful perspective, that I would like to see some accessibility measures ensured so I can finish my degree. I'm on my 2nd associate's degree. I have my 1st in business. I'm working on my 2nd in accounting with an accounting certificate. I'm also working on the leadership certificate.
Madam Chair, if I may?
Yes.
Ms. Romero is actually active in student government this semester, and if we were looking for an appropriate time to speak, she could maybe pipe up during my communication, if that would be appropriate.
Okay, you want to share that, that would be fine.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Mr. President, and all of the board. I'm here to sit for any questions you may have with regard to the enrollment report. You'll see that credit hours are 8.09% below the comparable registration date last spring, and 6.66% below final figures for last spring in terms of credit hours. And then the head count for spring is 7.91 below the comparable registration date, and 8.47 below the final figures for last spring.
And I'm sure if we just make some comments. Number one, we're still registering for late starting classes, and we still have quite a few of our dual credit programs that have not been registered yet. The best news is we had budgeted to be down about 10% this year. In the fall, we were down about 9%. In the spring, it looks like we're going to even be a little bit better. So we feel positive that we may be reaching that plateau of declining enrollments as many institutions have experienced.
Do you or Josh want to say a few words about the backside of that?
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything in particular that you all would like to?
Just a few highlights. Retention is always one thing that we're interested in.
Madam Chair, member of the board, President Grissom. So if I could direct your attention towards the degree-seeking population. The top left box is really about the degree-seeking population. You can see that most of the students there are continuing students. That means students who have registered in a class in the previous semester and still here. So in terms of retention, we want to always have that number as high as possible. It's normal to have a relatively small new first-time population, as many of the students traditionally start in the fall semester. Although us as SFCC, as an institution of higher education that serves various different population, we always get new sets of students at different times of the semesters. The other information I want to sort of just point to you is sort of the information relating to the senior rate. You can see that the senior students compose of roughly about 16% of the students. And although it's not a very big percentage of the student credit hours, it's still an important population there. Our race ethnicity is sort of comparable in terms of white versus Hispanic versus American Indian and other minorities in our areas. Ideally, we like to see the Hispanic population to be at higher percentages than 37%, although once we start seeing the numbers for dual credit students, we do expect that to increase significantly. In terms of gender, male, female, right now we have a slightly higher percentage of male than we normally see. Generally speaking, we usually have around 35% males compared to 65% females, and one of our challenges, of course, is to try to encourage more males in our community to register for post-secondary education and training. And I stand for any questions that the board may have.
Thank you. Board have any questions? Yeah.
On Pell eligible, the 28 head count, that's just the total number who are eligible for Pell grants?
I need to really look at that information. It seems a bit small, and so I'm not sure if this is an accurate report at this point.
She has an answer.
So Bob Grego is our Director of Institutional Research.
We've actually been doing quite a bit of analysis lately related to that. Because it's so early in the semester, we haven't awarded all of the financial aid yet, so that's preliminary.
Right.
Yeah, because the awards won't actually come out until next month, and so that's why that's low.
So let me ask a question about that. If the awards don't come out until a month into the thing, what do students do in the interim to buy books, to use their Pell Grant
Right.
money?
So right now, the bookstore is actually authorized to allow charges for bookstores. I mean, for the book orders. Outside of that, I think the students are pretty much on their own.
So they might be hungry.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Actually, financial aid is usable to purchase a meal card for campus, and that will be charged to your account when the money comes in. Same is true for textbooks.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Victoria. Jack?
A question I had, each month we've been getting similar reports of about anywhere from 8 to 10% reduction from the previous year in credit hours and then also in head count. And each month we look at the economic situation and as one of the conditions that's creating that. But I feel the time has come that we need to say, this is a given, and we need to address it. We need to improve our financial position and our student population. We started a while back, I think, talking about recruitment, and I set that aside from marketing. And I believe that President Grisham does have a recruiting plan that he's beginning to implement. What would be helpful to me as we, at the same point here where we talk about enrollment, and we've spent a lot of time, as we should, on retention, which once we have students there, we want them to finish, we want them to complete their education so they can get into the workforce. But I think we've spent less time on recruitment and the results of recruitment. So certainly what would be helpful to me, probably at this same point in the agenda, would be a status report, briefly, on what we've been planning to do and what we accomplished, and any recommendations that the staff might have as to how to improve recruitment, other than send more money, which is always, of course, a good recommendation when we have it. But that would help me to feel that we're getting the word out in the community and explaining to them all of the options, the many options that we have for advancement and for education. So is that fairly easily done, or I'm asking something that's pretty difficult?
Madam Chairs, members of the board, President Grissom. So in terms of recruitment, that number is actually being tracked actively through our strategic plan. It is actually one of our key performance indicators. And so whenever I have a conversation, there's actual active strategies that the recruitment office is currently administering. And so I'm sure, I don't want to speak for them, but I'm sure they'll be happy to give you an update on it. Whenever I have a conversation with the people at the recruitment areas, they say one of the strongest assets that the community college has is campus. Whenever students come on campus, they're amazed. Whenever they talk to our faculty member, they're amazed. And that really helps the recruitment effort. So one of the suggestions that the recruitment office, as well as many other offices, came together during our November 20th meeting, is the ability to try to bus some of the students to come on campus, because that seemed to really impact in terms of recruitment. And so, as I understand it, they were thinking about potentially submitting additional funds through the budget request process during this budget process. So hopefully something like that will be coming through.
So you are tracking, or have a tracking process going for these recruitment efforts. So if there was some way to summarize that, just to keep us up to date on it, I think that would be extremely useful.
Absolutely a possibility, and so I'll be sure to pass that information along, and we'll make sure you get it.
Great, appreciate that.
Thank
you, Madam Chair.
Can I, Madam Chair, before we go?
have another question?
Yeah, so I'm just trying to link the different data sets together. Could you help me? So if I'm looking at the continuing, which is our students who prevailed, so they started in the fall semester and now they're back again for the spring, right? So they're...
Madam Chairs, members of the board, Board Member Keith. Actually, it's the people who were registered the previous semester, so they're not necessarily the first-time freshman cohort.
Okay. But they've made it from semester to semester, so they're returning students and coming back. That's what continuing means.
Yes, ma'am.
So can we tell by looking at this kind of what percentage? So first of all, is that number, is our percentage of continuing students going up or down from last fall to spring?
I believe that number is pretty consistent. It's not a dramatic up or dramatic down from historical numbers.
Okay. And of those students who did not continue, or if we look at the positive side of the coin, those who did, do we have them broken down by race, ethnicity, and veteran status and age, so that we can get a good picture of who are the students who are succeeding, who are the students who we're losing?
We do not have that in this particular report, but I think potentially we could create a simple dashboard similar to what Anthony Willibody from our office has created recently with proper FERPA security measures in place. So I'll have a conversation with our IR office when I get back.
Yeah, and Madam Chair, Member Keith, just to add to that, when we did our data analysis for Achieving the Dream, the group that we saw we were losing the most, which is why we wanted to focus on them, were Hispanic males and Pell-eligible males. And so that's more of a fall-to-fall retention number, because we know we lose about half of all students, but it was more so for Hispanic males and Pell-eligible males. And so we will be looking at those reports too. This is just a snapshot of the current enrollment data at this point in time.
And I will also add that through the Achieving the Dream initiative, we've been having really stimulating conversations and have some interesting plans for how to stay connected with students and help them come back every semester. And that is going to be certainly our cohort group, when we look at the first time, full time, but this will affect hopefully all of our students, from advising, putting together an advising plan that connects students with faculty at the right time when they leave the Welcome and Advising Center before they go to the Center for Academic Transitions, and so we're excited about the possibilities for increasing that percentage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. On the race and ethnicity The statistics that I've been seeing is that the Hispanic is been a greater percent consistently over white non-Hispanic. So it's now like an inversion.
Well, the number, yeah, Madam Chair, members of the board, President Grissom, board member Zadego. The numbers that you may be seeing is the numbers for the entire academic year. And so on average, in general, if you look at the entire year, it's usually around 45 to 47% Hispanics compared to about 40% whites. So this, please keep in mind, this is just one semester in the spring semester. And so there's that impact there as well.
Thank you.
Plus we were still registering students, so this is not our final numbers.
Any other questions?
I'll just add, we have 40 sections of dual credit courses that are being offered on the high school campuses. Those students have yet to be registered. So just to give you an idea of how, we do have more registrations to happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, communications with Faculty Senate report.
Chair, members of the board, Mr. President. Good evening. Inferring from a couple of sets of minutes here that there's always a bit of time capsules, I think. We're looking at the 12-4 minutes from Faculty Senate at the end of last semester, and just reading through and trying to contextualize, I guess, some of the items, if I may. There was about the governance council concern. I think that was a snow morning, actually. So they're trying to put that into perspective. There was sort of a crossing of wires, I think a little bit there. The meeting was off, I think, and then on again. And the two members that would have attended, I think, were home in the snow. And I happened to be here, so I got to attend. That's how that got covered.
You got nominated.
Yeah, that's somebody came and got me, I think. Technological Advisory Committee, you see the volunteering assignment of Mr. James Marshall, head of ceramics, to agree to serve on that committee for spring of 2016. Reporting back from Margaret Hopkins for the Financial Oversight Committee. Essentially, we were pleased to hear that the college's finances are looking sound and stable, and we're taking great pleasure in that. So, thank you. That's kind of, only spending a year on the downside of that was notable, and we want to congratulate the board and the president for that in good fashion. Compensation and Benefits Subcommittee, progress is still continuing. There's research and comping for salaries and benefits in New Mexico and neighboring states, trying to find out sort of where we stand in that capacity. And we've got some information back yet, but nothing final, really. Academic Freedom Task Force. This is an ongoing issue that I guess you've been introduced to it in advance of here, certainly. Peg Johnson, SFCC librarian, raised the concern of filtering on campus. And I'm personally serving and others on a task force convened by the president to get recommendations back, I think, by early or mid-March about proceeding with that. And we're in process on flow and conversation on that. Really sort of input into a couple of policies there. Draft policy 2-2, student corrective and disciplinary action, and then also 2-3, student concerns and complaints. That was forwarded to us, I think, by Ms. Jill Douglas, I think, who's now since retired, but we've always found her work very solid in the capacity of support for the students. Agreed with that. Draft policy 4-46, also still in process. Background checks for employees has raised a lot of spirited conversation among faculty and faculty senate, and asking what that means and what we're looking for. And we've got an ongoing conversation to with HR on this policy on Friday. Daniel Gutierrez has been very helpful in understanding or giving us understanding of the necessity and progress of this in higher education. The language that you see here, and I'm paraphrasing because I'm trying to represent a person who is not here to speak for themselves, and so it's my duty to try to convey this, is that the community college environment is one, from faculty's perspective, of open access and second chances. And we'd like to believe that would also be conferred in terms of hiring. in that sense, that some mistake in a previous part of their life would not hold them from opportunity or advancement in that capacity of being able to work in an arena that does not threaten or compromise the college's need for fiscal security and stability. And there's an interesting quote in here that currently the United States has a larger percentage of its population incarcerated, which is larger than the Soviet Gulag system, South Africa under apartheid, and also communist China. And so then the question of that begins to ask, who are we incarcerating? Why such a large population is being put away? And predominantly, the majority are young males for typically nonviolent drug offenses. And this has gotten to the point where California's prisons are full and people are being pardoned and released to try to undo that burden. It's probably an overreaction to a political perspective on things in the early 90s, essentially. And so then, as those individuals come looking for their second chances in life, we want to try to understand that we, as a community college, have something to offer in that capacity. And that's part of that concern. The other question that we've had that's still going on, I think, in that, faculty expressed concern at the beginning of each semester. We have over 300 adjunct faculty that are hired to teach classes. Every semester, at the beginning of the semester, classes may or may not make. There's a fluidity in there from that workforce, or from that constituency. And often new classes are added, or someone can't fulfill a verbal agreement to come into that class. And so there was some observation of how that background check would happen in a way that would, if it is to occur, would not happen in a way that would impede the opening process of needing to hire people kind of on the fly. It does matter who is available to fulfill that capacity. It was communicated by faculty when hiring role for other faculty members. It's not like we're sitting necessarily on an untapped wealth of people who can just readily step into certain roles. And we wanted to communicate that in that situation, timing and process flow on that is important. We don't want to impede necessarily the opening of a semester. There's always some flux that happens. Does that make sense?
So I have a question.
Other questions? Yes.
So, are we allowed to ask a prospective employee of their criminal background?
Currently, what is the situation?
I believe we do ask that. There is a law in New Mexico. You cannot, just because somebody has a conviction, you cannot not hire them. But if their conviction is in a certain type of crime in a certain area, then you have some leeway. So, for example, we cannot have people with felony convictions working in the cashier's office or in some of the offices where they have keys to everything because our insurance wouldn't cover us if we did. So it's just certain types of areas.
Kids campus.
Kids campus, you cannot work in kids campus, and so we have a totally different background check that's required there by children, youth, and families. So there are different background checks. We've been doing some looking around of, what are other schools doing? And it's amazing to me how many are doing 100% background checks. Now, there's different types of background checks that you can do, and some are faster and some are less expensive. And so we've just been looking into this to try to figure out what should we be doing. The easiest way to not discriminate against anybody is to do a background check on everybody. And so that's the easiest thing to do. But just because something shows up in your background doesn't mean anybody outside of whoever run the background check will ever know that unless it relates directly to your job that you're applying for. And then a decision may have to be made. And it may never be the hiring authority that knows it. It may be only the HR office. So it is a tough issue to deal with.
Complex issue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Linda?
On that point, so this is a policy that still hasn't gone to the Governors Council? Or?
So it's worked its way through the governance groups right now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not resolving it, so it makes this conversation a little out of step. I apologize. But it's an ongoing conversation. It's a process. So that's why it arrives here now.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the The other question is, too, that in terms of a background check, and we understand the sensitivity of that information when the college performs it, but then who in the hiring authority chain gets to evaluate the severity of the nature of any findings in relation to does that come down to the dean's level? Does it come to the chair's level? You know, that type of thing. So that's another question.
Sure. Right. Any other questions? Thanks, Clark.
Next set of minutes. Convocation, January 11.
Yes.
Title section B8. Faculty Senate with cooperation and support.
We're all tongue-tied tonight.
That water is sitting so close, I can see it.
You can pour some.
That with cooperation of Margaret Peters, academic VP, we've been trying to assemble as comprehensive of a list as we can of committees that are either Faculty Senate subcommittees or college committees that are standing in task forces where we have faculty serving. This is for our own interest as a governance body or constituency to try to understand what ground we need to cover, where we may have it covered, and what our other remaining challenges are. And so then you see, it's grown out to be kind of more substantial than kind of what we imagined at first.
It really is.
Yeah, but it shows, I think, a lot of things, really, for the depth of the input that faculty and staff and administration are engaged in what we would consider the shared governance process. That there's active decision-making occurring at many levels. And we're really interested in, trying to record this, and that's visible for faculty to have a place to choose when they're looking for committee, college service, or community service.
Madam Chair, I actually went through that list. It's pretty comprehensive. You got a number of the departments involved in it, in the various disciplines. I think that's a good way to come up with some good solutions.
Thank you. And I'm sure there's others that are not on here that would not be, so in the faculty domain. But when we set out to compile it, I did not realize it would go on for 3 pages. Could have made it smaller, maybe. As part of that, Colleen Lynch drafted and submitted, and this is, I think, on the Faculty Senate meeting for this coming Friday. This is still in process, but trying to identify a procedure for identifying faculty, because we'll get an overture from a task force or committee coming to the Faculty Senate asking we need 2 people. And so we've established a procedure that you'll see in the next future of how we're addressing it, which means identifying the committee, its charge, its answering path in the administrative role, what its mission is, what its charge is, how long it is, and that type of thing. On the top of the next page, Faculty Senate priorities for spring of 2016. This was based on open feedback in the Faculty Senate meeting in convocation on the 11th of January. The priorities were stated as continued development of the faculty handbook, communicate need for cost of living salary adjustment, salaries in general for the campus as a whole. Santa Fe cost of living by this statement is 125 above national mean. If you look at Sperling's, I think it's 120. But essentially, if you look at cost of living, Santa Fe is not at the bottom, really. And it sounds like there's some, there's some money issues or financial issues because it feels like it's driving that concern. Looking to learn more and seek more understanding about the employee relations manager position as advertised for HR. We have an HR representative in Faculty Senate this Friday where that's a good opportunity, I think, for this question to be fulfilled more to our clarity. Also, concern and wish for more understanding or broader understanding for the new HLC standards for faculty that are currently slated to go into effect in 2017. We have a number of faculty members who teach specifically in the technical and trades area who may not have what would be considered the terminal degree, but they have a lot of professional experience. And I think that's what's driving some part of it. There's ongoing, clearly stated concern for desire and expressed need for a comprehensive campus safety and emergency action plan. And I know that that's also in process from sitting in on meetings at the executive team that have also communicated back to Faculty Senate on ongoing looking into a PA system and other safety. In April, this year in the spring Faculty Senate officers election. My position as chair and Colleen Lynch's current position of communications are due for rotation and reelection. And so you most likely will be looking at a new face here sometime soon. Encouraging people to do this because you learn about a lot about yourself and others by sitting there. You learn a lot. A suggestion that Faculty Senate webpage connects to a Canvas shell to facilitate an online discourse for people who have trouble or conflicts in making the Friday morning meetings. And so that's something we're wishing to implement. As such, increase faculty visibility on campus and broader participation in Faculty Senate itself, and that would relate to the topic just about. There is a conversation on a planning for an interim search for dean search for 2 areas, and then there's a question amongst faculty of making a recommendation, was that for a national search or for a local or regional search? And there have been 3 meetings to examine or look for recommendation there. My understanding is that statistically the difference is not huge between those, essentially. So the recommendation back to the academic VP was that there was some rough parity in there. It seemed like here it's 11-9 for an internal posting. The conversations were really clear in examining what the benefits were for each area. For locally, it would be, or internally, for someone that's very familiar with the college, has some history with it, is familiar with the culture and the priorities of the college as it exists. Going larger into either regional or local would be that you'd be able to glean new input or new ideas into that interview process, essentially. And it would not go to college from still hiring internal candidates. So there was no, to my knowledge, there was no determinating recommendation. And that's all we've got.
Thank you.
Yep.
Questions for Clark? I exhausted them. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks,
The staff report?
If she wants to share her time, she's limited to 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, President Grissom, good to be with you here tonight. I've missed the last couple of meetings, so I'm glad to be back. We're a little bit behind on our minutes, so what you've got in your packet is the 2 meetings from our that we held in October, and at those times we were really discussing and reviewing a lot of policy, so we haven't expanded beyond that very much. I will sort of echo my colleague Clark's remarks related to some of the more interesting things that we've been reviewing that have garnered a lot of discussion, and I always find it very interesting which of the policies garner more discussion than I expected. We did obviously spend a lot of time reviewing the background checks, and we actually had the Human Resources Office come back for a second reading because we did have quite a few questions and recommendations. There was, as Mr. Bond described, a lot of concerns about which positions would be eligible or would require the background checks and to what level, making sure that they were handled appropriately, what the cost ramifications would be to the college, and just to ensure that we are, following the best hiring practices that we can. And that sort of led to a little bit more of a global discussion about our hiring practices in general. So I think that's something that the Staff Senate feels very strongly about, working with the Human Resources Office in the future to continue to enhance the onboarding process for a variety of employees, not just staff. There are a lot of staff on campus who also fill faculty roles, and it may be assumed that if you've been working here as a staff member for quite a while, that once you come on as an adjunct faculty, you pretty much know what to do, and that's not necessarily the case. So we're really looking forward to having some stronger conversations about how we can assist in that process and what recommendations we can offer for both onboarding and continuing professional development. So I don't have very much to review from the minutes, but I did want to just highlight a couple of things that we're trying to do on campus to help promote our presence. One of the things we really wanted to focus on this year was getting greater participation in Staff Senate and trying to focus on some of the challenges that we faced, how we can address some of the difficulties that people have in participating. One of the things that we did that I was very excited about was we held a staff appreciation event. And so we had a kind of, I was going to say donuts and coffee, but we actually didn't have coffee. We had hot chocolate and teas, and I think we ordered about 400 donuts. And it was, I think, the last week of the semester right before we went on winter break, and we were actually running down the halls trying to give away donuts at the end. But I think people were very appreciative, and, you know, when they asked what the occasion was, and we just said, you are. You know, we want to show you that we appreciate you, we're glad you're here, we couldn't do this without you. And they were very receptive to that, and I think it was well received. And so we're hoping that we can do some more events like that on campus. We actually had a discussion with the officers of Staff Senate because we couldn't technically use our budget for food. And so we collectively used our stipends to pay for that event, and which we were very happy to do. Additionally, we're looking at working with marketing to try to come up with some innovative ways to engage the staff on campus and promote what we're trying to do. We've really tried to change the misconception that we're a place where faculty can come, where staff can come and just gripe. We're really trying to be solutions-oriented and objective-oriented, so that we're really looking at how can we improve the culture and the community and the collaboration on campus, as opposed to just being a place where people come and whine about whatever's going on in their daily lives.
Thank you.
So, and it's one of those things I think we all get a little bit tired of hearing that on a daily basis. So I'm always a big proponent of come to me with a solution and I'll hear you out. And so we've actually had quite a lot of positive feedback in that realm, because I'm happy to talk to people and say, how can Staff Senate help you? But come to me with a solution. I'm happy to hear out your issue, but tell me what you need, not just what's wrong. And so we've actually had a couple of successes in that area. Peg Johnson came to us when she wanted to discuss the web filtering or the content filtering issue, and I told her that we would support her, and, you know, being that I am in institutional research, I wanted it to be evidence-based. So she came to us very well prepared, and we were happy to be a strong support for her and carry that through. And I was very happy that the executive team and the OIT office was willing to participate. We had a great turnout from the OIT office when we were having those discussions, and it was a healthy discussion. You know, people were respectful, they had very strong opinions, and, you know, it was something that we all worked with together. So we want to continue those kinds of efforts. And to that vein, I would like to say that one of the things we're continually trying to improve on campus is our communication and transparency. There have been some concerns brought to Staff Senate that I'm not prepared to discuss at this time, but one of the things I think that would really help us address some of the concerns held by staff is active communication. And so I would just like to encourage everybody to participate and be thoughtful and forthcoming with information as it relates to staff, and not just be reactive. Let's see. I did want to thank the president. We made a special request to him to have a campus tour that he extends to a lot of external parties that come on campus and may be interested in donating money or building some kind of partnership with the campus. And several of the staff thought, well, that's pretty cool, but I've never seen that. And so we asked him to arrange a tour for us, and he did that for us last Friday. Our participation wasn't as great as we hoped, but those who attended were extremely excited about what they got to see, the information they heard. A lot of it was very new information, and several of them were individuals who'd worked on this campus for quite a while. So
You got to go in some of the back rooms.
we
the other
did.
Thursdays.
We did. We got some of the secret back rooms. And Dobby was with us, so he had the special key and he had special information, so I don't know if Dobby got to share a lot of the information with your other tours that he shared with us. So we were very excited about that. What I'll close with is that our next session, which will be Wednesday of next week, we're going to devote our entire meeting to talk about the organizational structure. And, quite some time ago, President Grissom had opened up the option to the governance groups to review the organizational structure and talk about budgets. And I think because we've had such a heavy policy review load, we haven't been able to dedicate and devote the time to doing that. And so we've pushed all of our policies to the second meeting of the month, and we're going to devote our entire meeting next week to talk about the organizational structure, because we get a recurring topic about staff and salaries and raises or pay grades and things of that nature. And so what I'm really trying, as I said, I'm trying to be solutions oriented. And so I've shared with the staff senate that the opportunity that the president's given us to review the organizational structure really speaks to that and how we're spending our budget. So let's talk about this in a way that we can actually make some suggestions. And so we're looking forward to that discussion. I think it's going to be a healthy one. We may not be able to complete it in the hour that we have allocated. And so it may be that we end up having a subcommittee come from that meeting, which I hope will have an ongoing presence.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Useful. Any questions from anybody? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
Let's see, we have the SGA report.
Would we like to start with Ms. Romero, or should I get started first?
If you want to ask Ms. Romero to make some comments, she will be limited to 3 minutes.
Yes, Ms. Romero, if you'd come forward, please.
Donna, would you keep time for us?
Hi, more than anything, I just want to say thank you for the opportunity at my education. I've worked very hard. Sometimes when I speak out, I can't control it, and I don't really mean to be disruptive, and so that's kind of what I'm here to address as well. PTSD comes with these factors that impact my heart. It affects my neurological, biological, cognitive, affective behavior. And so it can be oftentimes misperceived, and I know a few of you have seen me when my symptoms have been at my worst. They were in remission. So my PTSD results from childhood. I don't want to call them issues or discrepancies because I really had the time of my life during some of this, experience. I went through foster care. I got to experience different customs and cultures. I'll do my best to keep it at the 3 minutes. I'm very long-winded sometimes, and after
We'll interrupt you. Our time is limited too.
So, thank you, Chair, members of the board. My name is Valerie Block Salazar Romero. I'm almost complete with my Bachelor's of Social Work degree. My competency has been questioned on the basis of PTSD and emotional affect because of a behavioral health crisis that is now being raised awareness within our own community. So I want to raise awareness to that behavioral is not mental, and mental can be prevented. So I'm also a solutions-oriented person, which is why I got into social work. I'm using myself as a test subject. But at the same time, I'm monitoring my behavior and have constant awareness of my behavior, which is really the progression today. So what I'm asking is your support in helping those of us that may not be diagnosed with a disability because of the stigmas associated. It makes us susceptible to threats, violence, and abuse in our community, especially within this own college campus environment. And so I've done my very best to voice my opinion, to propose ways that you can better help assist me towards completing a college education that I know I'm entitled to. And I know federal law doesn't really restrict at this time the Learning and Compassionate Use Act. It does prohibit it from a public institution, which actually violates ADA Titles 1 and 2 because of the accessibility. I just wanted to mention, I used to work for the state personnel office, and so I know how to answer the background question because when I was 17 years old, I took a plea when I was in Texas. After getting out of the system, I was an adult at 17 in Texas, and there was no crime that occurred. I was questioned, told the only way I could come back to New Mexico is if I pled guilty to a crime. And that was the only way I could come back. Otherwise, they told me it'd be a tedious process to go through the appeals and I guess, just to get to a court trial. So I took a plea bargain of a misdemeanor. It stayed on my record from the time I was 17 till I was 32, which was last year. I'm 33 now. And it never should have been. It resulted in me getting a prison sentence at 18 because I played my Fifth Amendment. I had been in a rollover car accident, and so there were other things. I was convicted at that time based on a prior criminal record that never should have been. It should have been a deferred misdemeanor that never should have impacted my life.
30 seconds.
Okay, so what I'm asking is for your help and your support in helping ensure compliance of the ADA. The Lynn and Marion Compassionate Use Act is a state measure that's actually intended to help mobility within us individuals that can otherwise be capable and hardworking individuals within your community. I'm working very hard to become certified, to become the professional I need to be to stand up for the at-risk population and for those of us that have faced those incarcerated barriers. I picked up a prison number when I was 19 years old. I believe I'm cleared of this record today, so I sit here with a clear record, other than some things associated with my medicinal use of an alternative treatment, which is actually a healing and therapeutic mechanism if used appropriately and correctly. But I credit everything and all my progress today to the grace of God. And so I thank you for listening to me and hearing me out. Thank you for allowing me the chance to speak. And I look forward to working with you on this matter.
Thank you, Ms. Romero.
All right, my turn. So, Madam Chair, Mr. President, members of the board, we have, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to serve. I'm honored to be on the board, and I'm looking forward to a great semester. So, this semester we have hit the ground running. SGA is already getting involved in a number of initiatives. A lot of them have been mentioned in here already, a variety of task forces, boards, a bunch of different stuff. But we started our semester with the retreat on January 8th, was it? 7th or 8th or something that week. So we did unfortunately lose two senators at the beginning of the semester. We are not looking to replace them. We are notifying the deans of the schools, and the additional senators and my team are taking on the additional responsibility. But we have begun pushing forward a number of initiatives already, including a committee you've heard me refer to as the Title V Committee. That name is no longer appropriate. We're calling it the Book Lending Committee now. So the first thing we're doing is not this coming meeting, but the following meeting, we will be attending the Faculty Senate to poll them, see what their involvement would be going forward, and what the feeling is on this. Mostly because what we're asking is that faculty might use older textbooks. This would be on an agreement basis only. If the Faculty Senate tells me, no way, Jose, that's never going to happen, then we drop the initiative, look for other ways to help the students. But I'm hoping to get a positive response and we can work with faculty moving forward. The big thing with that committee is funding. We could probably pull it out of somewhere of our own accord, but we will be looking for something with possibly the foundation or other community resources. We do have a number of events coming up on campus. You've heard of the Student Voice Forum. I know we've mentioned it. It's an initiative coming up, hopefully with President Grissom, where students can come in and help us serve them better. Students can tell us what it is they need to make the institution stronger, and we will be there. A lot of different groups on campus, such as student ambassadors and the National Society for Leadership and Success will be there as well. Additionally, a few weeks after that, we have the Difference I Am conference coming up, which is being led on the premise of by students, for students. We're putting this together in hopes that schools from all over the state will come to our campus and we can run a leadership conference based on the pillars of diversity, education, leadership, and I cannot remember the last one. Community. Okay, so in addition to those initiatives, which are Office of Student Development wide, we also have some projects going on specifically within my team members. First of all, you've heard me mention the Financial Aid Committee, and we are moving forward with some of those initiatives. We're hoping to move the financial deadline for the drop dates to a Friday. I've met with Dr. Fields as well as Mr. Whitaker in the financial aid office, and we're moving forward by talking to the appropriate people, and we will see what we can do there. So that came directly from the students. I was asked about that in an effort to help the drop dates align more closely with students' paydays, so if they have a problem and they can do it as soon as their paycheck comes in, we will be accommodating that. We've also had some problems with financial aid from the nursing side, especially because a lot of our nursing students are now seeking bachelor's degrees through other institutions. That's causing a lot of issues with switching around the financial aid from our institution to their institution, and that's been a huge stressor on a lot of our nursing students, and my vice president is looking at addressing some of those issues. We're also looking at possibly enlisting the help of the counseling support on campus and seeing what they can do. We're hoping to put together stress workshops to help students manage the stress load that college can put on them. We're trying to get recycling bins put into some, if not all, classrooms. We can monitor what the change in our recycling would look like because of that, and that could be a credit to the institution. We're also looking at transportation to the train, the rail runner, for students who commute from Albuquerque and other locations. We've had a lot going on in our meetings. We've had a special presentation. We have one scheduled every day until spring break at this point. So that's a great way to keep our students informed, and if anyone has an idea of someone that they think should speak to the students, please let me know. I'm always looking for more. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we've already mentioned our Veterans Resource Center tonight because they recently won a national award, which is spectacular. We have a lot of committed men and women downstairs who have done great service to this country and great service to this campus and this community. And I think in order to appropriately honor them, as well as other students, we should be granted the opportunity to attend Veterans Day ceremonies in and around town. So, as it is, our veterans did miss this past semester. They took off classes, missed school, so they could participate in the Veterans Day Parade that happens downtown every year. So I was hoping that with help from the governing board, we could start the process to get Veterans Day taken off as a school holiday. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you. Yes, Jack.
Madam Chair, in December, you gave a very thorough report. I wasn't here, unfortunately, but one that I had asked for previously, responding to some of the issues that your predecessor had brought up. And some of these have been dealt with, and I was just reading the minutes of the meeting, and one of them had to do with transportation not being readily available to the campus. And you indicated this being worked on by the City and County Transit Strategic Planning Team headed by Rebecca Estrada. And you mentioned just now the rail runner. What can you be a little more specific about what your suggestions are for transportation? I know there is bus transportation to the campus, but perhaps it's not timely or sufficient.
Absolutely. The issue is that the transportation is not timely. There is currently nothing available between, I believe, 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. to take students to the rail runner. So if your class gets out at 2, you're here for another 3 hours until it's possible for a bus to bring you back so you can go back home. So that's the issue that we're looking at addressing, is the timing issue and the availability of transportation.
And what about transportation back into Santa Fe? Is that a problem?
I'm sure it is. I haven't heard anything myself. This is something my predecessor had come up with on his own. I never heard much about it. So this is not something that my Senate is planning on taking on at the moment, but if the board suggests that's a good idea, we can definitely look into the options.
Randy, do you know how many trips, or what's the schedule for the bus transportation to the campus?
Madam Chair, Member Sullivan, no, I don't know the number. We did do a transportation survey. I could show you. We did it in conjunction with the city transit system. The biggest complaint that we get right now is that there is no bus service on Saturdays. It does take a long time to get out here. That is a challenge, and so it's not as frequent, but the ridership doesn't justify expanding those at this point in time. There are buses that meet each train coming, but there's not always a bus that leaves from here to go back to the rail runner station for every one, mostly in the afternoons. So we have, Rebecca Estrada is serving on the transit task force now, so she's addressing those issues, including the issues of transportation between this campus and our education center.
Okay. And I guess my question to staff is, one of the concerns that was brought up was that all bathrooms being ADA compliant, and my understanding is that that's been accomplished, but where's Henry?
Henry had to go to a family that all bathrooms are ADA compliant.
Okay. So that was an issue, and I'm glad to see that's been taken care of. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to tab E next.
Look you up first.
We're doing the financials first.
Madam Chair, while Nick is coming up here, just to remind everybody, we did have a Finance Committee meeting yesterday, and we did go through the financials, and we have financials both for the month of November and December on the agenda tonight.
Yes, Madam Chair, President Grissom, board members. I'd like to talk a little bit about the November in general, the November report, as well as the December report. I can give a brief update on both of those.
The December report encompasses November as well, does it not?
It does, yes.
So is there anything specific in the November agenda report that is not covered by December that you want to highlight?
No, that's up to the...
Let's just do December.
You'd like to do December?
Yeah, because it's year to date.
Just worry about the agenda says approval of November and December.
But we did review both of these at the Finance Committee meeting.
Okay, I'm bringing it up here. For the month ended December 31st, 2015, we have cash in bank of $4.9 million. $2.4 million of that total is in the Wells Fargo operating account. Revenues, ING revenues are down $885,000. It's 5% compared to the prior year. And that is primarily due to last year we had state appropriations that were advanced to the college, and that was no longer the case this year. We're looking at expenses being down $876,000, and that is 5% compared to last year in December. If you look at compensation, it's nearly even compared to the prior year. Supplies expense, equipment and utilities expenses are down about $880,000. And as we...
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Is that mostly due to our savings for solar, our utility savings?
Madam Chair, members of the board, that's a big portion of that. Part of it is the fact that we didn't expense out of our insurance this year the way we did last year, so it's been spread out monthly. And then part of it is that we're just being more efficient in purchasing when we needed it instead of way in advance.
Yes, I believe that in terms of our electric utility expenses, if you look at last year, they were around $360,000. And this year, they're at the end of December, $165,000. So the solar facility is really providing a lot of expense savings there. If you look at the total rate of expenditures related to what was budgeted, this year we're at 47% of expenses related to the budget. Last year, we were at 51% of expenses compared to the budgeted amount. So there again, there's a good sign of a little bit of better outcome on how we're handling our expenses at the college.
Another question. I see the local tax revenue is down by a very small amount. 364 compared to 368 last year.
Is that the local tax?
Local tax revenue. Yes.
I thought it was up.
It's up 1%.
As received, this says it's down.
Look at November, December.
I'm looking at the first, I guess I'm on.
December, because we got the big
Okay,
influx.
that's the big one, okay. I guess I'm on November.
They go to E9F. Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't make the meeting yesterday because I was at the Capitol.
Good meeting, too.
Pardon me?
It was a good meeting.
Thank you. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so we're seeing continued financial improvement at the college. We reviewed cash flow statement that we, review periodically, and I believe we had right around $8 million in cash in our bank account.
As of last week.
As of last week, so, yeah, and that's what we received. A large portion of the local property tax mill levy operational dollars in December and January.
Right, so we've already received the January one too, so.
And that takes us to June.
That, along with our monthly state appropriation and our tuition revenue fees, takes us through June.
Through
Yes.
June, right.
But I do have to kind of add in there and give Josh Waramoto a lot of kudos. His projection on tuition and fees is right on.
Right on.
Right on. It is. It's actually a really good forecast there, and we're exactly where we should be with tuition and fees at this point.
Wonderful. Okay. Any other questions? And we have a motion to approve the finance report.
Move for approval.
Second. Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We are now in
It's a weapons training.
numbers, tab E. The second one is the concealed weapons discussion. I want to introduce this agenda by providing a little bit of context. Some of it Nancy Bennett has already provided about New Mexico regulation, but I want to say from the start, this is not a discussion about promoting or banning guns. That's not the substance of this discussion. The second point I want to make is that New Mexico law in State Constitution Article 2, Section 6 clearly states that it is unlawful to carry a firearm on a college campus, with a few exceptions. And one of those exceptions is that any student or instructor who is participating or conducting a university-approved class has an exception to that carrying legislation. Furthermore, the article provides specific instructions about what should be included in the courses that are approved to be offered. And finally, I want to make a point that as a comprehensive community college, it is our mission to meet the needs of our local communities. And so with that as context, let me turn the agenda item over to Board Member
Sullivan, the name is Sullivan.
Madam Chair?
Sullivan.
Yes.
Madam Chair, before you do that,
Yeah.
I just want to also make a comment that it is really not in the purview of this board to make decisions about the classes that we hold in our continuing education, that has never been our role to do that. I understand this is a hot button issue, and it's fine to discuss it, but we are not the ones who decide what classes are taught.
That is
continuing
correct. We do
ed.
not make course decisions. There is a whole process, as you all know who are on the campus, for how courses are moved through the curriculum committees and go through approvals. Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start by saying that we are required and empowered by statute as well as policy, our own policies, and responsible for the management of Santa Fe Community College. That's a broad responsibility, and while we don't intend, and it wouldn't be wise to comment on specifically how a course is taught, we certainly have a role in determining what courses should be and what the direction of the college should be, in my judgment. We've seen great changes in our society since 2004, which was when the community college started offering weapons classes. These changes have, for the main, not been good ones in our society and in the world society. Let me state pretty clearly here that my concern, and I hope others, and others that I've spoken with as well, is not with weapons safety training. That's God and motherhood. But rather with our community college sponsoring classes in concealed carry weapons with course materials provided by the NRA. I feel that this legitimizes and escalates the culture of packing heat to solve ever-complex social issues, which we're facing, and that's the wrong message. I'd also mention that the issue has nothing to do with the legality of weapons ownership, which I think Madam Chair referred to, but rather the message that we are sending to our students, bearing in mind that many of them are young adult students. In fact, 37% of them are under the age of 25. If the issue were legality, and just because it's legal to do it, we should offer it, then I would suggest that we should consider offering classes in smoking. That's legal too. I wouldn't support that, and I don't think others on the board would either. The question I have is, does this training really increase the safety in our community? That's the bottom line that I think is important to us. I've participated in gun safety training with my son in the past, and I don't feel that it made me capable of safely handling a conflict situation involving weapons. In fact, for those of you who may have seen the Sunday New Mexican, there was an editorial from a retired law enforcement individual that went through a great number of important issues, and one of the conclusions he reached in that, as others have, and I quote, "My experience tells me that a dangerously large percentage of gun owners would do more harm than good attempting to use a weapon in a hostile situation, either losing it to a criminal or harming some innocent person downrange." So while this is the amount of training required by state statute, and as we've heard earlier, it's a higher level than many other states require, which is just unconscionable to me. Nonetheless, we've seen law enforcement officers who receive considerably more training than 15 hours react inappropriately in hostile situations. So certainly, I think we are sending a message that that this is the best way to put it is false hope, false faith in this being able to safely prevent you from a violent situation involving weapons. And the statistics and the opinions of law enforcement officers don't generally reflect that. So With that, Madam Chair, I would make a motion that the board recommend to the president that concealed carry weapons training be removed from the Santa Fe Community College curriculum.
Is there a second to that motion? There being no second, that motion dies.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Well, you're welcome. So we will move now to the agreement of the Econoponic Systems report. Randy?
Madam Chair, as we had at the work session this afternoon, the college is looking at doing a collaborative effort with Ecoponics Systems to build a micro reef, which is a renewable energy efficiency farm on campus. We are in the final stages of negotiating a draft agreement that we would bring to the board. It is a fairly substantial collaborative process with great opportunities for students and for economic development for the community. So basically what we're doing at this particular meeting is just asking you to authorize me as the president to develop that agreement, which will have to be brought back to you, hopefully at the February board meeting for final approval.
Questions or comments? Motion?
I move so moved.
Second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to approve the MOU. Is that correct? Yes. Yes. All those in favor? Are there questions?
Yeah, Madam Chair, just some discussion on the motion on the table. So I just want to say, I'm really glad that the college has this opportunity to engage in a partnership, a potential partnership that can give our students opportunities to work at a business, that can give our students opportunity to grow in their degree area. I think that's a good partnership for the college to be engaged in, and on the other hand, potentially support our community in growing jobs, which is something that our community continually tells us that we need more good paying jobs in our region. So I'm eager to see the agreement as it comes along in our future board meeting, and supportive of the president, very supportive of the president entering into these conversations.
Madam Chair, if I could just add to it, we did have a lot of discussion to make sure that we are protecting the short-term and long-term interest of the college and the finances, and those are all issues that we discussed at the work session, and they will be addressed, hopefully all of them will be addressed in the agreement that is finalized.
Other comments or questions?
I would reiterate both comments, that the memorandum, the understanding that I read was extremely general and could put, in my judgment, a lot of responsibility and fiscal liability on the college if it went that way. So I see that memorandum of understanding being a long way from a contract, and I hope that can be hammered out by the February meeting, and that we get it in advance enough so that we can have a thorough review of it, because I think this is a large step. We are committing, or would be committing, land resources, would be committing staff resources, and I'm not quite sure what else would be committing. As I read through that memorandum of understanding and expressed those comments at the work session. So I'm just saying, give us enough time to look at it ahead of time, if you would, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And just, I'm sorry.
Linda?
Clarification. So we are doing this through the Training Center Corporation, right?
Madam Chair, actually, it's two parts.
Okay.
We are doing the main agreement will be between Santa Fe Community College and Ecoponics, because they will be leasing land, but there is the potential that the college will get an ownership share in the business, and that would be through the Training Center Corporation.
Okay.
The
And
Training Center Corporation cannot lease college.
our land, right. But I don't see a memorandum of draft here.
You got it in the email. Well,
Oh, in the email, okay. You think I read those now?
Been a little busy, have you?
Yeah. Okay.
So, Madam Chair,
Yes.
as I understood it, our work session, that it was very clear, at least to me, that this is just a memorandum of understanding. There were a lot of rich discussion that I thought was important, that has to be fleshed out. I'm pleased to hear that our attorneys are on top of it and making sure that our interests are at heart, and that we're not going to get into any kind of a contract that's going to bind us. So from what I see, if this is going to be an opportunity for the college to really expand our educational opportunities for our students, and more importantly, is it means jobs.
Yes.
And I'm very pleased to hear that we at least consider that seriously.
It's important to note that in that conversation, we talked about both the educational opportunities that such an agreement would provide for our students and for a greater number of our students, the resources that it might bring to our extended regional communities, and how that might benefit. That was one of the concerns that we expressed and that we had some conversation about. And also the notion that it brings jobs. That if you're thinking about jobs for the future, and that's one of the things where I think community colleges sometimes fail, is that we think about training for the jobs that were in place yesterday, maybe the jobs that are in place today, but we spend very little time thinking about the jobs for the future. And this would give us an opportunity both to address job creation in the present, and also to create a job force that could actually meet the needs that are evolving in our society. So those are all positive things that we saw in the MOU. That said, we were all very concerned that we had, when we see an agreement, that it has answered some of the legal questions that we have, some of the risk questions that we have, some of the long-term questions that might arise with this partnership. Public-private partnerships are more and more common among our institutions, and this is a wonderful opportunity for us to engage in that if it all comes together well. So there is a motion and a second before us. Any other conversation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move back to tab C.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the consent agenda, which includes minutes of the December 2nd joint meeting, the regular board meeting of December 2nd, and a special meeting of December 10th, in addition to several policies for final approval and reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. What is the discussion?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a clarification, was 219 removed, the retirement of that?
Yes, when we approved the agenda, we removed that from the agenda.
Okay, so this approval of the consent agenda, so that will be coming up next month, is that the plan?
Yes, Madam Chair, Member Sullivan, we had the policy that was going to be the replacement policy. We had to take off tonight's agenda, so that should come on in February, and at the same time, we'll put the retirement back.
Okay, and which one did we take off?
It's not on the agenda. We'd already taken it off, and didn't realize we didn't take off the retirement.
Okay, I see, I understand. Thank you.
Any further comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We now go to tab D. We don't have any of those, as I understand it, right? Oh.
Yeah, and we go to tab F.
And tab F. Here's my-
These are the first readings.
Okay, these are first readings, and we had quite a bit of discussion in the work session on the first readings for these policies. So let's go through them one by one. Policy 4-38, which is on staff evaluations. Any comments on that? This, by the way, we don't have a vote on this one. We're just reviewing them for vote after the second reading, which is next month. So 438, any comments remaining after.
I have some questions because I didn't make the work session because I couldn't come. So, on the evaluation and performance, it seems to me that these leave out or remove a lot of the detail about how these are conducted. Is that going to be somewhere else? Is that going to be in a procedure?
Yes, we've developed a performance management assessment tool that was piloted last fall, and then we had a second pilot where we made some revisions, and so that will be in the procedures, and that'll be implemented as well in an electronic format. We just completed an RFP for a talent management solution that will include a performance management module, and that's how we will. So the procedures will be substantially different than anything the college has ever seen.
And so, Madam Chair, members, see, those will be in the procedures, so.
Okay. And then how does this fit in with the procedure for if an employee is not performing, I mean, I don't see those here where you go through a process of improvement, and then if you don't improve.
We've added in Section D, this is a new area that I added to the policy so that they would consult with the Office of Human Resources about an employee's performance if their overall rating was below expectations. That's item D in the policy process.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, members of the board, then many of those other processes are in other policies, 4-2 or 3, which spell out the step-by-step process for, especially if you're grading an appraisal or any action.
So that's in procedure?
No, that's another policy. It's a policy 4-2 or 4-3.
That's in another policy here?
No, not.
No, we've already done that.
Okay, we did it already?
Already updated that.
Okay.
It's 4-2. 4-2 is next year. 4-2 is employee corrective action and disciplinary action policy.
Okay, so that's...
That's where you actually go through that.
Right, and we're not doing that
No,
one.
this is just the evaluation piece.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's all I have on that.
Any other comments about this one? All right, let's move then to policy 5.1.
This is the new one.
And this is the new one, and we had a new policy that came out. And you have a comment?
I'm sitting in for Henry.
Oh, okay, that's nice, thank you.
So, Madam Chair, just to let you know, so we did talk about a couple of edits and moving things around in the work session, and so we will do those activities. The main difference, as we talked about, is that we did realize that we have programs that lease space on campus, like the Masters Charter High School, and they do their own artwork, and we should allow them to control their artwork that they hang in their area of the building. We shouldn't have to run it through our processes necessarily. So we added language that would allow lessees to do that.
Okay. I do have a question here. Okay. So many, many years ago, we had an incident here where we had some artwork that I believe had been improved by the campus or the gallery or whatever procedure we had in at that time. And I think the president decided to remove it because it was inappropriate based on perception of religious. Perhaps you remember what I'm talking about. Anyway, so how is that addressed here?
If I may.
Yes.
I think I was hired in the aftermath of but my understanding at the time that if there was a process for bringing that particular work on campus that led to that incident, there was it did not follow process onto campus. And so then there was no procedural grounds for that it was vetted through the process. I think, and this particular policy then goes back to the President Vivolo. Actually, he wrote, still the core of this has withstood, from my experience, the test of time. on it, and it actually works, in that there is a vetting process for any work that comes onto campus. There's a deciding body closest to the decision that makes the decision whether it's on artistic, academic grounds, or if it's fit or suitable for part of the collection and viewing on campus.
We did leave in the ability for the president to weigh in cases where it couldn't get resolved at some other level. So right now, it's under the policy statement. It'll be moved to the process, and it's number 6 under item D. D as in David, 6. Currently under policy statement, it says, some of the foregoing standards limits the factors that the college may consider in decision-making. Final authority resides with the president of the college based solely on the president's consideration of other non-aesthetic factors listed in this policy. So the president still has the authority to remove something.
Non-aesthetic in that context, I think, would be for safety and other issues, really.
Not for artistic conduct.
But there is a clause in here that the faculty can recommend removal if it does not meet aesthetic or educational goals. But it's just not an open place where anybody can bring anything and put in. You know, we're a college, and so it has to meet academic requirements from the faculty's purview of it.
So the president can only refuse that on a non-aesthetic. So it might be a political problem, it might be a community issue, or things of that nature.
Yeah. My personal observation in watching similar issues like nationwide is that if there is a complaint about something, if you can wait it out, it's the better. You know, if the decision is made to move it, it kind of creates like more upset, actually, if it's possible.
Madam Chair, you have the pledge from this president. The only reason something would be removed if there was a safety issue.
But this doesn't say that. I don't know, what is non-aesthetic?
That gets into, and I was wondering why nobody ever asked this, when we look at the definition of aesthetic or non-aesthetic.
That'd be a good definition.
Non-aesthetic value or judgment is not a justifiable critique for applying to where something is good or not. You know, there's actually a whole body of work in the 20th century that intentionally is not very good looking, but it has a political statement to it. It gets into a lot of things that are not really easy to answer. In my time here, there's only been a couple of times where we had to activate the policy in terms of discussion. And it's been a decision of whether it was the way I've approached this, for instance, is the hallway that goes between the main gallery and the art lobby, I've always considered as a public thoroughfare. And so that may not be the best place to put kind of anything that's particularly edgy. The gallery or other areas that are somewhat like, you know, that you can choose to go in or linger or take it on for its full measure, but art in its definition is not really always intended to underline your pre-existing reality or make you feel comfortable. You know, if that occurs, somebody's not really doing, you know, what they need to be doing as good as. And it's not always there for, you know, everybody's enjoyment, but our role as a community college means that we need to realize who our community is and operate.
So do you believe the language as it is now protects the artistic perspective?
It's staged, I would say. There's levels of it there. I think clearly it moves the gallery itself into a more protected arena, that you have the ability to go in and look for it. The demographics of our artistic population don't quite lend itself to some of the more confrontational aspects of it, too, that you would discover in an urban environment on the coast. Yeah.
Well, asked another way, I guess you're asking if this policy should have some statement about things that could be politically charged or religiously charged, or I guess those are the two.
And are we protecting that aspect of art? Yeah.
I think it's in there. I think it could be stronger, but I think it is consistent with the application of academic freedom, that it needs to be with certain responsibilities,
Yeah.
really. You know, you don't get to say what you want to do at the expense of something else. If something comes up with that, I don't know, it's something that really and truly, I would hope that the governing board or a chief administrator would not be led into choosing to make that decision, but would rely on the academic, role of the faculty to say, and make a good case for it, that yes, this has strong artistic merits and bounds as intended. Whether that's worth like drawing the college into a protective situation where it creates upset in the community, that's open to question, because I think there's really larger issues involved in it here, but also trying to understand that we live in a time where pluralism is needed to be able to understand what another person's perception is. And that's, we as a community and as a nation, we still have a long way to go, I think.
Okay.
Is it impossible to define non-aesthetic?
It moves into art theory. It's a very long.
Yeah, right. We'll depend on the artists.
Yeah. At the core, just one parting shot at it though, is that there's justifiably the use of beauty was seen rather justly at one point as being sort of a seductive lure into getting someone to approve or to like something. And then reality in many of its manifestations is not pleasant or beautiful. We live in very complicated times, and to show disturbing things is also really showing, the nest that we've built and the home that we've built on this planet Earth. Some people don't want to see that because it's upsetting, but that's, if an artist consistently choosing not to show that to you is not right either.
Yeah, okay. Any other comment or question? Okay, let's go to the next one, which is
6-2.
6-2. Tuition and fees.
Madam Chair, board members, President Grissom, we reviewed this policy in an earlier meeting, and you all provided some edits to it, particularly in the policy overview. We want to include something along the lines of the governing board has the authority over establishing the tuition and fees for the college.
Good, so you're going to take this out about how only the president decides the fees?
We're going to, Madam Chair, we're going to add some language in the scope and applicability section related to the board, because it is the board that has the final authority. The president does recommend.
Yeah, but then, but number 3, A3 says the board shall delegate to the president the
Those are
approval
course
of
fees.
Individual course fees and.
That's not tuition, that's individual.
I know, but then you just said we would approve tuition and fees.
If you continue to read through, though,
yes,
part of the proposal from the president is within the budget includes all of that stuff.
But in the budget, we never see the amount of individual fees. So we would be clueless about.
But by delegating to the president, you could always take it back.
But not according to this policy.
Madam Chair.
So, yes.
I thought we had included the governing board at our work session.
In the scope and applicability, we said that the trustees have a final authority.
Right.
And we did say tuition and fees for the college.
Correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're contradicting ourselves.
So we may want to think about changing number 3 to say the board may delegate to the president. Because then you can delegate it, and if you want to take it back, you can take it back.
And then we could say we.
Because if it says you shall, and if you do, you've done it.
We want to do it before we see it.
Right.
We want to see it before we do it.
That's right.
Okay.
I promise you, you do not want to consider the course fee for every course element.
We certainly don't.
But we want to be able to say, when people complain that, okay, why did this fee go up and we didn't approve it or know about it? I'm sorry for interrupting, Nick.
No, that's fine.
Please continue.
Okay, anything else on this one?
We decided earlier to change the definitions for credit course and non-credit course to be more specific and more descriptive.
Are you leaving? Are you leaving? Oh, okay.
And one other thing, the policy does include in this revision adding in contract training. I don't think that that was there in the original policy, so.
We added another piece that might be helpful to you. In the policy process, we talked about that the proposed tuition and fees would be a part of the budget process. That had not been included.
Oh, it always has been, but
Yeah.
it wasn't in there,
Yeah,
okay.
but that's was a suggestion made that the revised policy should have.
Okay. I'm curious about, under course fees, number 3, revenue from individual course fees, though recorded as general revenue for the college, may be redistributed during the budget to individual departments. Is there a reason that's necessary? Is there some rule we had at one point that said if you generated fees, you got to keep it?
Madam Chair, members of the board, members say that, no, but we do have a couple of courses, especially the healthcare area, where we are now taking those fees we have to charge for the background checks that are required and some of the health checks that are required, and instead of putting it into the general fund and then having to get approvals to put it into a liability fund that we then pay out of. So we accrue those expenses that we pay.
Oh, that's what this means.
Yeah, but we also have the ability, in some cases, we have actually segregated some of the revenues for some programs so that we can see the profit that's made.
Yeah.
So that we can use that for professional development or equipment. So this just allows us to do that. We don't do it across the board because it is quite a lot of work to set up a separate account for every type of activity.
So that's what this means.
Would allow us to do that, yes.
Okay.
Most areas, if they got the money for the fee, they would learn that the rest of their budget is being subsidized by the college because it doesn't even come close to covering the cost.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Anything else? Our last one is 6.3, payroll and salary deductions.
During the session, the earlier session, you asked that we define salaried, so we will make that change. And I think that's the only change that was requested that time.
Most of this was just to separate out all the procedure that was in there before that shouldn't have been in the policy.
Yeah.
And
There was a lot of procedure in there, in the original policy.
I have a question about that. So where is the procedure written already, or how does the procedure follow on after we approve the policy?
So within 30 days after a policy's final approval, we have to have the procedures posted. And so in many cases, we're writing the procedures as we're doing the rules, or doing the policy, because they're close, they're somewhat tied. I don't know where this one particularly stands, but this one should be pretty straightforward.
That's exactly correct, Madam Chair. Board Member Keith. We will use a lot of the language that was already incorporated in the original policy, but we'll put it into a procedure manual, if you will, so that we can update it. Things change every now and again, so it makes it easier just to make those changes.
And will they, do the procedures go through the shared governance policies?
No, they don't.
Officially, no, they don't. But in certain cases where there's a lot of interest and an education process that's needed, there would be some discussion with the various boards.
Sorry.
The various groups. Yes. Okay.
So I have a question now that the board, for purposes of the IRS, we are now employees.
Yeah.
We're working on revising policy 1-3.
So So you're working, so.
Yeah, we should have that
Get
ready.
this out.
We should have that ready for you in February.
Are we exempt?
You are considered an employee only for purposes of your stipend, or however we call it, for attending board meetings and reimbursement for travel expenses.
So I won't be getting health insurance?
But they will take Social Security out.
That they will do.
It'll make you a whole nickel. All right, okay, so that takes care of the first readings. We'll see them again next month, and there are no information items for purchases over 100,000.
There are none at this point.
Okay, so any board reports that anything the board would like to share?
Could I share the legislative, or
Of
did
course.
Andy already do that?
No.
No. Okay, so as you all know, because your gasoline prices are so low, that must mean that we might have some problem with the budget in New Mexico. And where in July we had $293 million new dollars projected for the next fiscal year beginning July 1, in December that was down to $230 million, and as of today, with the latest revenue report, it's down to $30 million. $30 million new dollars for the next fiscal year to fund the $85 million we need for Medicaid, the $15 million we need for corrections, the however million we need for public education, for however much we need for higher ed. So the money is not going to be there, and many people are saying we don't even have the $30 million. It's likely a flat budget. And flat budgets have huge implications for higher ed, public ed, and that flat budgets usually mean we will have to cut things. Not dramatically, hopefully, not salaries, but it means we're not going to get the money we asked for our programs, and it means we're going to have to look at what do we do with a little less money.
Madam Chair, and I think really that when they talk about flat budget, it's really negative. It's really a negative because in the past we've lost some of the appropriations that we've asked, so it doesn't look good. They're going to have to get it to the reserves, I think, particularly to do the Medicaid.
One's down.
85 million is what they need for the Medicaid. If they don't come up with the 85 million, that means we're going to lose federal dollars because it's a match.
At a 4-to-1 match.
4-to-1 match.
Or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
It's looking grim.
Yes, it is looking grim.
It is.
We don't know anything yet. We won't know until, 23 days from now, but I think we should be anticipating and strategizing on what we're going to do.
Madam Chair, if I could just respond to that. So we are looking at those areas already. There's also the projections on the capital outlay side. The severance tax bond availability has also decreased greatly, and we did have some bills, and we still do, to try to get our share of that. The good news is, though, on the GO bond side of the house, that still is pretty intact because it comes from a different source of funding. So the $2 million that we had put a request in that would go to the voters next November, that's the one thing that looks like there might be money.
Well, on that note.
On that happy note.
On that same topic, last fall we had a presentation by our bond counsel regarding where we were for potential mill levy issues. And as I recall, their conclusion was that we're now at the point of bond repayments where we could go out for a new issue that would not increase taxes. Haven't heard anything more about that since then, but I just thought I should bring it up now. Is that in the discussion or in the offing?
Madam Chair, members, Member Sullivan, before we can really decide on the board for a capital outlay request, we would need to update our master plan. And so we've just started that process of bringing in an outside contractor to help lead that initiative. At the same time, though, we are looking and still studying and do need to get back to you in terms of other options related to our operating mill levy also.
So that mill levy could only, just as clarification, be used.
Correct. Correct.
So SB3 money is not going to change.
Correct.
Anything else for the good of the order?
On a different note, would like to propose that the board have a day-long budget planning session. And add that to the board's calendar for
April 9th.
Saturday, April the 9th.
Okay.
Just remind them when the next board meeting is.
The next board meeting, and you need to note the changes in the next board meeting, because we have split the committee and which will actually be another board meeting. So we'll have a regular board meeting on the 18th, and then
The 18th of April?
No, we're talking about February. February, I'm sorry.
I'm confused.
And then the approval of the financial reports will have to come on the 29th. So that'll be a separate board meeting. And so instead of meeting as a committee of the whole, we will meet as a board, because we'll have to approve we'll have to approve those financials.
And the reason we're doing that is because?
Both Randy and I are out of town. On the regular meeting, and it's too early for the financials to be ready by the 18th. Everything else, like the policy things that we're struggling through, we can probably get through on the 18th.
And you won't be tired on the 18th.
Neither problem.
We can nap between 1 and between noon.
Stayed up all night, yeah, right, okay.
That is for those of you who don't know, that's the day the legislature ends at noon.
Okay, so we have a closed session to move into. I'd entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we have a closed session for purposes of discussing pending or threatened litigation pursuant to NMSA 1978-10-15-1H7, briefing on employment claims involving pending administrative complaints or claims pending litigation and threatened litigation against a contractor, for the purpose of discussion of limited personnel matters pursuant to NMSA 1978-10-15H2, briefing on the resolution of 2 employee complaints, and for the purpose of discussion of personally identifiable information about an individual student unless that student, his parent, or guardian requests otherwise pursuant to NMSA 1978-10-15-1H4, briefing on issues with potentially disabled students not being otherwise qualified to attend certain classes.
You do that so nicely. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We will go into closed session. Thank you all for hanging in there with us.
Do we need to leave this here, or do we need to be short?